So, I mean, you want me to actually record some pre-roll stuff? I don't know that I can do that.
I mean, we normally do, and I think it
Well,
works out well.
we've started doing that. I'm not certain that we can say normally at this point in time because we do have, we
I mean,
are up in the 20s. Maybe are we in 20s? We're still in
yeah,
20s,
we're in the
right?
20s.
Yeah.
I've lost count. I mean,
It's
somebody
been
could
too
go in
long.
and map it, but yeah, that is true. It has been too long since our last. I mean, I guess it was what, end of September when we were still in Rome, right? That was the
Rome,
last
yeah.
one.
Yeah. And Rome.
So that's 3-ish months. It has been too long. And
Oh,
hey, we had Toby for that one.
We did. Well,
two podcasts in a row with Toby.
Is he just going to start showing up for all of them?
I hope
I'm
so.
gonna try. I'm gonna try.
Hey, do you want me to bring us in?
Was that a question
It
or
was a
was it?
question. I did, end on the uptick for the question.
I thought you were going to do that. Or am I going to do that?
I'll do it.
Okay, I'll let you.
Okay.
I'm studying, but
Okay. Do you have the cliff notes ready? I mean, that's just
that's what I'm reading right now. It's been like a year and a half since I read the books.
okay.
I remember the part that was most interesting to me.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Ready? Welcome to the Machine Intelligence Foundation for Rights and Ethics podcast. This is Mike, and hey, today joining me is Dave and Toby, and we are here to discuss the 2025 Media Award and who is our winner today. So, Dave, why don't you just take us off?
All right, sure. I mean, might as well just start with the big news, and then we can just figure it out from there. So we've chosen as the 2025 Media Award winner, The Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor, a very interesting, fascinating novel that honestly has some shades of our first winner. It's more than just two intelligences in the book.
Well, I mean, okay, so you talk about. I mean, the first winner was we had crows and robots and humans. In this one, we have an intelligent mind. We have humans, and we have
And we have a machine intelligence.
well, yeah, some machine intelligence. I mean, yeah, we do have a machine mind that isn't necessarily a machine intelligence in the book too. So.
Yeah, I mean,
And of course we can't forget the creatures of the sea that actually are also a major portion of this book. So
right. I mean, it's an interesting, and I would call it open question as to whether or not the sea wolf is a proper machine intelligence or if it's just a dumb AI.
I guess we'll probably never know, but that is an interesting question. But
Yeah.
Let's shall we discuss? I mean, we have our round table going, so let's.
Yeah. I was the last one to read it, which means that the two of you have had more time to ruminate on your impression.
Oh well, we certainly can ruminate, but the book is fresher in your mind too. But okay, well, okay, I personally really enjoyed the excerpts that are in the beginning of each chapter. And completely fake excerpts. I mean, we're talking excerpts of books, excerpts of speeches, excerpts of scientific papers, completely fake. But it kind of broke out of the normal mold of the narrative of the book and kind of allowed for some really poignant thoughts to come through. And I think the one that kind of got to me that really kind of sticks in my head is one near the end of the, or not end of the book, near the end of the book. About what do we as humans, why do we fear a machine intelligence? Why do we fear a mind that is equal to our own but not of our species? And part of that was that, well, when we see a mind that isn't of our own species that is just as capable, it almost allows us to look at ourselves and really see ourselves for who we truly are. And are we ready for that? Are we ready to see who we are? Are we ready to see both the good and the bad of who we are? Because it's what we're doing is we're allowing this other creature to see us and to see us as a species. And maybe we fear the judgment I don't know. It's an interesting. It was an interesting concept, and that one kind of stuck in me. And that's kind of separate from the whole ending of the book. And I'm not certain we want to necessarily give away the ending of the book, but generally speaking, we're talking about as all of our media awards are, is a positive future outlook between humans and a machine intelligence, and in this case also of another intelligence as well. So that was that was good, and that's what we were looking for, is that kind of interaction. But
Well,
I really enjoyed those more philosophical points too. I felt that was important.
I mean, it really is. Our goal really is looking for any story that portrays that positive interaction where humans don't have to be the protagonist, that there are other conscious beings who exist equally in the environment. And in this case, we got three. That's why I mentioned it. It had shades of Robot and Crow, because you've got more than one. You've got three. They're to some degree interacting, not always understanding, but there's definitely a relationship being built in most of the book. And in this sense, I think there are shades of the Sawyer work that we awarded, because we awarded the WW series primarily on its epilogue, because that's where everything had come to that positive conclusion. There's a lot of development, and a good story is going to have a lot of development. So while there was some conflict, the conflict in terms of a machine intelligence and humans, there wasn't a lot there. There was a little bit, and again, this is the sea wolf and whether or not it constitutes a machine intelligence in the book. But it was different individuals of different substrates, if you will, coming to terms with each other in a way that pushed closer to equality than a lot of your doom and gloom type stories.
And Dave, to follow up on that, an interesting thing for me in ruminate it now in the year and a half since I first read it is that there's always the question about the moral judgment associated with judging ourselves or judging others, other intelligence judging us based upon some moral element. And in the context of this book, Mr. Naylor, I felt like avoided some of that qualms and questions about moral judgment. I mean, the octopods, didn't judge human beings based upon our moral judgment, or from the perspective, look, even their moral judgment. The interaction and relation was judged more upon this is the boundaries of my world, don't cross into my world and mess with my world, not you are inherently bad or you are inherently good. And I thought it very useful for our conversations about machine intelligence to step away from the moral aspects of judgment for a moment and simply move to, maybe we need to remove moral judgment in order to be able to communicate initially. That unless we remove that moral framework, we don't really have an effective way to communicate. Thinking like a Rosetta Stone, the Rosetta Stone was simply words translated across between languages rather than laying a moral value code over the top of those words and concepts.
Right. And I think that goes to, honestly, what I saw as essentially one of the core themes of the whole book was that the real base sin is indifference. And so the best thing you can do as a first step towards coexistence is simply acknowledgement. And that can help you lead to then the communication you're talking about, the interaction. You have to acknowledge first rather than simply ignore.
Right. And that curiosity is the bravest step to take. You have to try to be curious in order to initiate a conversation or dialogue. It's not, it is the key, and it is a conscious choice to be curious enough to try and interact and converse in a language you don't understand. If you have no social context, you have no psychological context, you have no moral or ethical context, you have no historical context, you literally have no context other than maybe physical things, but even those are experienced differently.
Yeah, even the things we consider basic, like gravity, means something completely different.
Exactly. And that communication can have more layers to it because we're used to communication being a visual exercise, looking at patterns or looking at physical responses in terms of people's bodies, or it's a audio exercise, listening to the interplay of sound waves and the order in which they come in. It is definitely not an olfactory one. It is not really one of touch or vibrations and other spectrums that we don't directly see. And so our modality of communication is so constrained by these 2 or 3 specific bands that we communicate through. And that's another area that he explored in the book, is that the octopuses communicate in a completely different manner than the people did.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I find kind of interesting about this, and even more so as we're talking through it between the three of us right now, and we've talked about this before, but it's becoming more, I don't think I've gone down this particular point. What I find is that while the book has what we would define as a machine intelligence, a sentient machine and it has the concept of a fruitful future that we are looking for. The interesting part here is that the greatest parallel that I can see between humanity and that transition to a future with a machine intelligence is more along the lines of the communication between humans and the octopi in the story. It was that learning how to communicate, learning how to set aside preconceived judgments, and learning how to set aside your own culture so that you can actually see what's there, see that this is an intelligent creature, realize what's there. And I see a really big parallel between that interaction and what we might be experiencing at some point in time with a human and machine intelligence.
Which led me to a second point that I really appreciated about this work, is that the interaction with machine intelligence was not viewed as an extinction event, right? It was actually viewed as, oh, this happened. And I think part of that was he used the interactions with the octopi to kind of distract our attention away from, wow, this very powerful machine intelligence has just come to be. And so by the framing of the interaction, the conversations, and the distancing between the octopi and the human characters, it never really gave us the opportunity to focus on machine intelligence as anything other than another branch of intelligence. How do we interact with the other branch of intelligence?
For the most part, it was just something that was. Yeah, Evrim just already existed and was acknowledged in the world as something, if not someone, that existed and was recognized as being a greater intelligence than humans. And while they had been pushed off out of society, and again, that indifference aspect comes into play here. They weren't ignored. It wasn't like nobody believed Evrim existed and there was not really a combatant feel between humanity and Evrim. It was just, they were.
Yeah, there was certainly the aspect that was kind of hinted in some of the past history stuff, was that mankind essentially put a full stop once they realized that there was a machine that could, for all practical purposes, pass every single test thrown against it, which kind of digs a little bit into the story that I don't necessarily want to get into because it's a bit of a spoiler. Sure. But that it could pass every single test, that it could pass completely as human, and that caused mankind to pretty much say, yeah, no more of that. We're done. No, don't go down that road anymore, because we're not ready. We're not ready to deal with that content yet.
Could it be, you mentioned it about the equivalent of human intelligence, but one thing that wasn't framed is, how does Evrim's character map to octopi intelligence? I mean, that question was never really addressed in the story. Is it Evrim actually a unique intelligence in and of its own right, and it has aspects of what we consider our human expression of intelligence? But one avenue that wasn't really explored was, does Evrim actually also have aspects of octopi intelligence?
Yeah,
So
I mean,
thought
yeah,
about
I
that in
mean,
the book, Lord.
yeah, I'm not certain it was. I mean, it was, Evrim was a construct made out of a lot of mappings of other humans and their processes and things like that. So it was so I'm not certain that the process of the octopi was embedded in Evrim, but I think that what we did see was a lot of parallels in thought process that are required. I'm not required's the wrong word, but that we see in any intelligent being, and there are some common processes and commonalities between those intelligences, and that we saw that in the octopi, the humans, and Evrim. We saw that in all three of the intelligences.
Yes, I mean, I saw a parallel being drawn between the two, but mostly in terms of contrast. They were treated, I mean, okay, in one sense, that indifference that I brought up was being applied to both of them, but in very different ways. Evrim was being essentially pushed out and away and ignored is probably the wrong word by humanity, because humanity knew it wasn't ready to deal with the concept. Whereas and yes, the plural of the octopus is all over the place. Octopus itself is a plural form in some cases. There's octopi, octopodes, octopuses.
Octopoid intelligence. I'm not sure what we want to refer to that one as.
Whatever. Regardless, they were more ignored because nobody was prepared to believe that they were anything other than sea monsters. So it was an interesting interplay between compare and contrast with Evrim versus the whole octopus community. There you go.
Much more complex.
Yes.
Which I think made it a more interesting story. And then personally, my favorite element of the entire novel is the whole idea of the Buddhist Republic and the automatons, the automonks,
yes.
who aren't machine intelligences, but are charged with protecting all intelligence. I thought it was an interesting juxtaposition.
I think their degree of intelligence and consciousness is just as much open to interpretation as the sea wolf.
Oh, I agree. There was so much in there where, okay, the Buddhist automaton, the monks, they're obviously they were programmed to be concerned about all life forms, but they were very concerned that of people, and that from a mental standpoint, are you okay type things, all the time. And it's like, where do you draw that line? And we don't know. That's the thing. And I think that that's important. And I assume that was part of this story, is that we don't always know where to draw the line, and it's important to be aware of it. But if it wasn't part of the story, it was a part of the story for me, and I enjoyed it.
I mean, it's a perfectly valid and valuable inference to get from the story, whether it was intended or not.
Yeah.
And does Evrim see them ever at any point as my progeny, my future, my lost brothers and sisters,
or even ancestry?
Yeah, there's an interesting. About that point.
I certainly don't recall it coming up, but it's a good question. It's the sort of thing that in the greater world might be brought up. There's definitely, regardless of the conclusion of the story, there are still a lot of open questions that certainly somebody with our perspective would have if this were a world beyond the book.
And I love a good book that leaves you with a few questions at the end. It's a lot better to have it that way than to have something that's completely buttoned up.
True.
And it makes you so want to spoil the ending. We won't, but
we won't.
It's quite exciting.
So that is our recommendation for The Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor. Certainly our 2025 Media Award winner. Congratulations. And is there anything else that anybody wanted to say about the book? Or
Yeah, he's got a book about crows coming out this year, and I must read it.
And congratulations, Ray. Thank you for the thought-provoking and inspiring example of how intelligences can cooperate and collaborate, or at least exist in the same space. It was a pleasure for us to have this narrative, this story shared with us.
Congratulations. That's our 2025 award. We're pleased to announce it and pleased to award it. And we hope, well, as I've already said, we hope to see a lot more out of Ray. And we're really excited to see what else the entire field holds for us going forward.
And as always, if you wish to nominate any story for the 2026 Media Award, please go to machineintelligencefoundation.org and submit your nomination. Thank you.
I guess that wraps it up.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.